Well, her son stood up in Ottawa in a mosque and celebrated the shooting death of Corporal Nathan Cirillo. And now this mother is speaking out, publicly decrying his radicalization, hoping to warn others of the dangers of radicalized Islam, which is here in Canada and taking hold of young men. Her name is Michelle Rowland. She's an English teacher, an anti-poverty activist, and now founder of the National Islamic Sisters Association of Canada. I thank you so much for joining us on the phone this morning.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I certainly can. Thank you so much. Just so our viewers understand your situation, your son was arrested just last month under a national security investigation. You yourself have been dealing with his radicalization for 2 decades, and now you've made it your life to fight and speak out for young people who are being radicalized and being put on a deadly path. Is that correct?
Okay, not entirely. First of all, he was just pulled over for to ask about his driver's license. Something about his paperwork was not in order. It was not related at all to his views that he expressed in the mosque.
Okay, but what was it about your son that you realized he was being radicalized and going down a deadly path?
Well, this is what I want people to understand. One of the first techniques or tactics that people who are promoting this ultra conservatism that leads to extremism, one of the first things they do is create problems between family members. Mm-hmm. They start playing on the emotion of one of the recruit. And where it goes from there depends on a lot of factors, and so whether or not a person will eventually become an extremist that is inclined to violence or participates or supports violence is another issue altogether. Mm-hmm. So, it can't start in any religion or any ideology without the manipulation of emotion, the lack of intelligent or the lack of intelligent and rational discourse, and the other geopolitical and social and economic factors that are extant in different people's lives. So when a person, what I'm trying to promote now is first and foremost that the Canadian society, including the Muslim community, start trying to promote the alternate voice. See, that radical voice that leads to the extremism and all the other negative things, they have a multi-billion-dollar propaganda machine at their back.
Let me stop you there, because your son, according to you, started the radicalization process way back in 1995 because he got involved with a group of men who promoted an ultra-conservative brand of Islam, which we know as Wahhabism, which is rooted in Saudi Arabia. And so my question to you is, how long does it take to radicalize not just your son, but some of the young men that we're seeing in Canada who are then going over to fight alongside ISIS?
Well, radicalization is a process that is not something that you, it's not like you hypnotize, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like one session and now you're under my control. Human beings respond to the things in their environment and in their life and their culture differently. So whereas the young man who, posted the video on the internet, he probably was manipulated with not just his emotions that are evoked when they see all the violence going on overseas, mm-hmm. but also just someone, I would assume, because this is what happened to my son, making him feel that he was an important part of, establishing justice and establishing, a righteousness, in with all the emotional connotations that word would evoke in the world. So, when you get someone in someone's head like that, and it's not, none of it has to do with using the intellect. They don't give you accurate information about the world. They don't talk about anything in any depth. Everything is very superficial. Everything is black or white. All the interpretations in regard to religion are very literal. But the problem really is there's always somebody somewhere who's going to have this kind of views, and in every culture, in every religion.
Okay, so let me stop you there then, Michelle, because how big of a problem is it in Canada? We know that there are Wahhabist mosques in Montreal. We know that there are across Canada these mosques. Do you get the sense that the Canadian government has a grasp on this? I know that there are meetings taking place and hearings in Ottawa right now. Do you get the sense that the Canadian government understands that this kind of ideological teaching is going on?
Well, I do. I think they understand, but I think that they don't realize how simple the solution, or at least the beginning of the solution, could be.
Which is
and
what?
That is to support the alternate voice. You know, if you come to Ottawa or Toronto or any city looking for religion and you incline toward Islam, the only thing you will find is books produced by the Wahhabis. It's very hard to find books, and there are thousands of them available, by the alternate view that teaches traditional, moderate Islam. You won't find any mosques that have not been, in some degree influenced by conservatism. They will pretty much dismiss anything other than conservatism as being, oh, well, they're not really religious. And a lot of people actually think of themselves, I'm not that religious. They don't realize that you don't have to appear to be religious to be truly religious. It's not all superficial as they promote it to be.
Okay, so do you think that Wahhabism then as a whole is dangerous, and is it something that we need to be examining more closely here in Canada?
Well, Wahhabism, I believe, is a cult, and it's a politically motivated cult, and so and its roots they don't have very deep roots. They've only been around for about 40 years, but they have been able to make up the difference between the 1,000 years of traditional Islam and the last 40 years by virtue of how much money they have to promote their view as being the standard. You have to remember, most people who immigrate to Canada are coming from countries that in their lifetime only came out of colonialism or actually may have been still under colonial rule or despotic and tyrannical rule. So they come here. They didn't have the freedom of religion. They didn't have the chance to study freely. Whatever they knew was passed down from their grandparents. And so they came here with a pretty open book. And these people are the only ones that have been available to fill it. So I'm just saying, let the alternate view. They'll recognize it when they see it, but you have to remove that blockade. Yeah. That's created by all that money.
Interesting topic. Well, Michelle, I know you've got a lot of work ahead of you, but nonetheless, I appreciate your insight. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.